The sacred saying, "a dog is a man's best friend," refers to the bond between humans and dogs throughout the long history of companionship, where dogs helped with hunting and comfort, while humans provided food and shelter. But in the world of film, is there a movie that describes this deep emotional connection best between the two creatures? There's of course films that explore the themes successfully, like Call of the Wild and A Dog's Purpose, but I think I found one that exceeds every other movie in a non-conventional weird way, and it's the movie Isle of Dogs. Isle of Dogs is a Wes Anderson directed stop-motion film that released in cinemas in 2018, starring big names such as Bryan Cranston, Edward Norton, and Scarlett Johansson. All massive names in the film industry, each having their own respected huge televisional hit. But why is these huge Hollywood sensations casted as voice actors on a fictional movie about dogs, and can it really be that good? It's a question I ask myself, and to answer that, yes it really can. Isle of Dogs is set in the dystopian future Japan, and unlike most other films, it starts out in a very strange and rather uncanny way, with a dog explaining to us that 10 centuries ago, dogs roamed around the earth as a dominant species and a rival to the humankind. The dogs, in hopes of seeking to extend its dominance and grow their dominion, gets interrupted when the cat-loving emperor Kobayashi declared war. As the dogs are on the brink of death, close to losing the bloody dog wars and on the verge of extinction, a miracle happened. A child warrior sympathetic for the dogs betrayed his own species and beheaded the head of the emperor of the Kobayashi clan, which led to world peace, tranquility, and harmony. Keep this in mind for later, okay? Okay! Years after the war ended, the dogs evolved from a dominant species to powerless house pets, but the Kobayashis, however, never forgave the conquered foe. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu says, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." And that's what the Kobayashis did. 20 years after the war, the 6th-term mayor, Kenji Kobayashi, declared at a political convention an outbreak of a snout fever in the dogs' bodies that is spreading throughout the city of Nagasaki, with blizzards of infected fleas, worms, ticks, and lice. With this contagious outbreak similar to, you know what, the mayor declared the expulsion and containment of all dog breeds, both stray and domesticated, to the exile prison called Trash Island. But what if I told you this was all a facade? That all this was an agenda that the mayor was enforcing? That none of these dogs were getting sick naturally? Over on Trash Island, we get introduced to a cast of main characters being Rex, King, Boss, Duke, and Chief. The first four of the bunch being former house pets who have to adapt to this Wild West lifestyle and desperately missing their previous lifestyle and the comfort that came with it. Rex, who used to sleep on a lamb's wool beanbag, King that starred in 22 consecutive Doggy Chop commercials, Boss, who was the lead mascot for an undefeated high school team, and Duke, who had a balanced diet and regular grooming. All luxuries in their own way and, generally speaking, very comfortable living conditions. But then there's Chief, the odd one out, as you can say. Chief didn't have all these luxuries, Chief didn't have a lamb's wool beanbag, and Chief certainly didn't have a so-called master. And that's because Chief was a stray. This role structure between Chief and the other dogs causes personality clashes and eventually disagreements further down the line. And I think it was interesting while watching the movie the way they introduced Chief as this so-called intimidating leader role. As such, he is a stray dog who doesn't give up easily and has this cold and rather harsh personality. Despite that, because of the other four dogs being similar and having similar background, Chief gets overshadowed and instead the dog named Rex gets the leader role. It shows us that in a group setting, despite you being a dominant figure or rather a previous popular figure in another group, it doesn't matter, because a leader without followers means nothing. After the argument between Chief and the other four dogs, a flying plane crashes to the ground and the group then sees it's a little boy. They try to see if he's okay and disconnects the safety parachute, and that's when he sits up and talks in Japanese, which the dogs obviously can't understand. The boy then shows us a picture of his lost dog named Spots, in who he's traveled all the way from Japan to Trash Island to find. The dogs then pledge to help the little boy in hopes of him becoming their master, their savior from this rotten island. Isle of Dogs sets us a very basic but yet promising premise. We have a political conflict going on between the humans and dogs which has been going on for centuries. We have the people that are trying to find a cure, or easier said, is trying to support the dogs. And then we have the people that exiled the dogs and infected them with a poisonous disease. I know it's formulaic, but that's why it works. We understand each side, there's really no confusion about the overall plot, but that's done so we can focus on the real story, the real motive. The deeper we get into film, we slowly but surely realize that the real story isn't about good versus evil, it isn't about political conflict and war, it's about the emotional bond between the boy and Chief. On the quest to find the boy's missing dog, they find out that the Japanese government have been creating robotic dogs made to fight against the residents of Trash Island. In such, the government has sent a team of dog catchers out to return the missing boy, since the boy is coincidentally a distant nephew of the mayor, hence his name, Atari Kobayashi. After the fight against the dog catchers, in which they won, Atari had run a medical checkup on the group of dogs, but Chief, the one that was hurt the most, said no. And that's because Chief doesn't want to obey a human's rules. Chief doesn't want a master. Chief doesn't want to sit. Throughout the whole movie, the relation between Chief and Atari, it transformed from two opposite strangers stuck in a group because of the circumstances they're in, to a loyal companionship. And it all starts here, when Atari and Chief suddenly get separated from the rest of the group due to an error in the contraption that they were using. They get dumped in a disposal bin and it's quickly on the feet again until Atari sees a roller coaster. A roller coaster he wants to ride despite the time schedule and that he's under the height limit. Chief, as responsible as he is, tells him he can't and that they have to get going, in which Atari disobeys and goes up the roller coaster, embodying this "we are all our own leader" mindset that has been thrown around this whole movie, and shows us despite the kid's signs of moral maturity, in such he disobeys the government's ideology, and in this trash island, he is still a kid, and kids will do irrational decisions. After Atari had taken the ride and landed in a trash bin, he quickly switches moods because he realizes that Chief is gone and he doesn't have his dog. He doesn't have his comfort. Chief comes back after hearing Atari's whistle and they continue to move along the mission. They get to a big open place and Atari throws a stick and tells Chief to go fetch it, but Chief hesitates at first, since as he told him earlier, he doesn't need a master. Eventually, after some time, he runs to get the stick, but not because Atari said so, but because Chief felt sorry for him. Chief hands the stick to Atari and then this happens.
Good boy.
Something so simple yet effective as small praise or approval seen here with Atari calling Chief a good boy is something that's overlooked when it comes to any relationship, friendship, or companionship. The saying, "a little goes a long way," perfectly describes what had just happened. Despite it being something so small, it sparked something inside of Chief. It showed him that love from a human maybe isn't as bad as he thought. Following this realization, Chief accepts Atari's care, which entailed a bath, haircut, and a full-on makeover, which then made him look awfully similar to Atari's dog, Spots, and that's not because Chief is Spots directly, but because Chief is a brother of Spots, hence the resemblance. Atari offers Chief a biscuit originally for Spots, which kinda spooks him at first, since he had never actually had real dog food, and this is the moment where Chief finally accepts Atari as his master. The bond between these two slowly grew as their journey continued, and Chief slowly gets this protective instinct for Atari, showing the care and love he's had for him despite the short period of time. And I think that's what the movie is trying to tell us, that all it really takes for us to love someone or love something is just to realize. What I mean by that is, imagine you have a dish in front of you that you've never tried before. Let's take sushi for example. For years you've heard people say it's gross, it's just raw fish, and that a hamburger down the street at McDonald's is much better. So without even trying it, in your head you've already decided you don't like it. When randomly one day maybe somebody recommends it to you, or you're feeling like trying something new, you give the sushi a try. You take the first bite and suddenly you realize it's actually not as bad as you thought, and rather good, and now the head starts spinning because why didn't I give it a chance before? Loving someone or something can just be like that. Sometimes we have these built-up ideas or fears about people and we judge them without really giving them a fair shot, because of the pre-decided thoughts we have on them. Every time you interact with that one person or just look at them, you think about the things people have said about them, or what you see tells you what they are. And yes, most of the time it's true, people are what you think, but not all the times. The movie ends with Atari finding his lost dog Spots and Chief offering to replace Spots' role as Atari's bodyguard, and the deal became reality. After the reunion between Spots and Atari, they arrived back to Japan and infiltrated the convention and overthrew the mayor, resulting in Atari holding a speech about the way the mayor was a forcing agenda and the sickness all along was just a scheme to get rid of the dogs. And the scientists had already found a cure to the snout fever, which meant that history repeated itself, and such a child warrior had helped a man's best friend once again. The goal of the movie is to show us that the relationship between a dog and a human is understanding each other's needs in the way that dog needs, of course, basic living conditions such as food, shelter and health, but more importantly, purpose. Many breeds of dogs are naturally inclined to work or have a specific purpose. When humans give dogs tasks or engage with them through playing, working or care, it fulfills the need for purpose. In short, most dogs benefit from guidance or rather leadership. They are structured to need boundaries which humans provide through training and routine. When it comes to us humans, the way we benefit from dogs are from companionship, unconditional love, which is rare nowadays, and a sense of responsibility. A thing we have to do every day. In such, we must feed, walk and care for the dog, and this creates a structure in a person's life, especially for people who might otherwise feel aimless or without a purpose. And that's why you see a lot of families with kids or older couples get dogs, because even though the dogs can be stressful, it creates structure and maybe also a form of escapism in the way when you're with the dog, it releases this sense of stress from the daily life as an adult, or the boring evening that occurs when you get older. Us humans, we have brains that work quite differently to dogs in the way that we have a much higher developed prefrontal cortex, which means we can use logic, reasoning and abstract thoughts to come up with a creative solution. But when it comes to dogs, it's more of a trial and error based thinking system. What I mean by all of this is that we know that dogs can't understand us and that we can't understand them, but one thing we do know is that we need each other, and that's what I call mutual dependence. If you liked the video, I'd highly recommend liking and subscribing, and commenting what's your thoughts on the dog and human bond. This is all for this time. Goodbye.